Da qualche tempo mi appaiono i video di una ragazza. Si chiama Rosie e vive in una vecchia casa nelle foreste svedesi. Inizio a seguirla. Appare principalmente lei al lavoro in condizioni climatiche spesso estreme. Parla raramente e mi suscitava un senso di mistero e curiosità. Chi è questa ragazza? Come è finita lì? E perché? In questo caso, tra una domanda e una risposta, c'è di mezzo una mail, un aereo e qualche ora di guida. Attualmente qui è piena estate, anche se dalla nostra prospettiva italiana non sembra, ci sono appena più di 10 gradi, appena finito di piovere. Siamo nella Svezia centrale e dopo aver lasciato l'ultimo paese abitato, entriamo nella foresta. Nel frattempo è anche uscito il sole, quindi è cambiata completamente lo scenario e rimane un vento molto forte. Lo attesta quest'albero che è caduto e ostruisce la strada, per cui da qui in poi per raggiungere casa di Rosie continueremo a piedi. Ok, direi che abbiamo trovato casa di Rosie. Un viale dritto verso la casetta rossa in fondo. Mi sembrava un po' di entrare in una serie TV, dove però è la realtà che scrive la trama. Hello! Here you are. So lovely to meet you. Let's go for the hugging way, Italian way. Yeah. Rosie ci accoglie sorridendo, ma con una certa timidezza che mi fa capire quanto poco sia abituata alle visite esterne.
I'm just keeping life wild here, like you get all these flowers and like wild strawberries, and I have these wild raspberries that start coming out all over the place. Back in the day, the government would provide housing for like soldiers, and this was one of them.
Vive in una di quelle tipiche casette di legno rosse svedesi e i segni del tempo sono piuttosto evidenti.
It was probably built in like the 1850s. There were two brothers that shared this house with their families. Two families living here. And I'm like here on my own thinking it's pretty small.
È arrivata qui 4 anni fa. Era un luogo dimenticato da molto tempo. Legno marcito, topi, buchi nei muri. Ma per qualche motivo Rosie decide di venire a viverci e recuperarlo, iniziando una lunga serie di lavori tuttora in corso. And here we are.
But yeah, so it's really weird to suddenly have people here and it's like, hi, how do I talk?
Okay.
Well, this is kind of like the room that I've been living in. And then this turns into a bed. So at night, I sleep here. And then this is like, ta-da, beds.
Fantastic, but there's the sense of a lot of efficiency, either in terms of space and in terms of money.
I work as an interior designer, so I know how to design things to show this is how you want things to look like, but not this is how it's to be constructed. Very early on realized that those are two very, very different things. Because I don't have the budget to get like custom things made. Like I'm making it custom. So this is the living room. This is going to be like a giant sofa because
Wow.
I am clearly a giant person who needs all the space.
Finito il tour interno della casa, in effetti mancava una stanza che qui, come si faceva in passato, si trova all'esterno.
But I have an outhouse. An outhouse is a toilet. This was already here when I got it and I haven't changed anything. I use it sometimes, but mostly I go into the forest. That's the reality of things. Outdoor shower. Basically it's just a big bucket and like a shower head, so I just have to warm up water in my kitchen, fill up the bucket, and then I have one of those like camping like pump things that you just put in the bucket and then it just comes out.
And considering that this is the warm season, how do you do it throughout the rest of the year?
Yeah, then it's just cold and then you just have to run fast.
What temperatures are we talking about in winter?
It can reach like -20. I think for a lot of people it would be like a first priority to like get the house warm, make sure there's a good bathroom, and those are like the things that I just didn't really care about and I'm kind of doing them last. I really have very little interest in fixing the shower because it's like it's fine. So it's like I'm just like building furniture and I'm like, this makes me so happy.
Rosy in questo momento è fuori che lavora e si vede come a poco si sta sciogliendo un po' e stiamo diciamo entrando in confidenza.
But this is like a really cute space to sit. I think I get more pleasure out of this than like a fancy shower.
Mi ha molto colpito il modo in cui vive e quanto le condizioni qui non siano per nulla semplici. Mi sembra di vedere che per lei sono cose assolutamente normali, accettabili, e quindi mi chiedo da dove arrivi, che percorso abbia fatto, quale fosse la sua vita di prima per poi arrivare qui.
E a proposito di viaggi e di lingue, ringraziamo Babbel che ha sostenuto la nostra trasferta svedese. È l'app di apprendimento linguistico che uso da molto tempo ormai e mi trovo molto bene.
Per cui la consiglio volentieri a chi sta pensando di imparare una nuova lingua.
Ci sono molte lingue tra cui scegliere, io sto studiando francese.
Qu'est-ce qu'elle fait les ménages cette semaine?
Si migliora passo passo con le brevi lezioni focalizzate sull'affrontare conversazioni di vita quotidiana.
Devo dire che i suoni e le tante immagini sono molto utili per la memorizzazione dei vocaboli.
Ho ascoltato anche i podcast, fatti molto bene per migliorare l'ascolto.
Écouter est une excellente manière de vous habituer aux sonorités du français.
In descrizione trovate il link da cui ottenere il 50% di sconto sull'abbonamento con la garanzia di rimborso completo entro 20 giorni.
And where do you come from? Like what country?
The Netherlands. I grew up in a village that was extremely small. It was like one long road, so nothing really happened. I always wanted to go to the big city. So I wanted to go to New York, couldn't afford it, so I ended up in London.
And what made you go to London? Like only the attraction to big cities?
I think just the anonymity and just being surrounded by Well, I wanted to be surrounded by big buildings. I started studying fashion design, but I ended up doing interior design. I think it's nice to create some beauty out of everyday objects that you use anyways.
But how long have you stayed in London for?
I was there for 17 years. I was kind of shaped there because I never really felt at home in the Netherlands. I don't have much of a connection to it except for my family being there.
Così il taglio netto con la vita precedente per Rosie non deriva da uno shock o dalla disperata voglia di evadere dalla città. Anzi, la vita di Londra le è sempre piaciuta.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of really enjoyed being in London, being in a big city and, you know, walking around and the transport and just being surrounded by so many things. It's just that at one point I wanted to hopefully buy an apartment and I found out that I couldn't because the salary I had just wasn't enough for getting a mortgage.
Dopo oltre 15 anni di lavoro capisce di non poter permettersi un appartamento e perde fiducia in quel percorso.
But I met someone who was hiking and doing like this long distance route and I was like, oh, now that's interesting. And that's when I started traveling. I was like, I had all this money saved up, so I took that money and I went traveling. And that's what I did for like 4 years. I was just mostly in hiking, then I would go back to London, make money, save up the money and then go on a really long hike again. I started appreciating things outside of cities. Maybe I could do something else, maybe I could live somewhere else. I mean, otherwise, like, I would have never imagined wanting to live in the countryside. Most of my friends in London are just like, it's just the weirdest thing that you're doing that. But it's kind of nice to kind of just go with life, you know? Sweden sort of seemed like the best option for me just because of the way I am, and I'm just very introverted, and I like the fact that you can like walk around, you can go into all of the forest, it's free to roam around.
Così Rosie, dopo aver visto una decina di case in giro per la Svezia, decide che questa è quella giusta.
I was able to pay for it in cash and not have a mortgage. Yeah, like I used to work as an interior designer and now I just do YouTube. I managed to make enough money to just do that right now at least. I mean, it's a huge luxury to be able to just spend my time doing DIY. Obviously, it is also a lot of work. I need to film everything, I need to edit everything, but it is really amazing that I'm able to spend my time focusing on the thing that I want to do for myself, make my home nice. So when they came, they brought my sewing machine and like just this one suitcase with a bunch of things. I had to walk here from town, which takes like 2.5 hours or something. I don't have a car. If I had a car, it would be so easy to get to shops. I could just as well not live out in the forest. And on a bike, like it takes a while to get to town. So I experience the whole road through the forest to get to like civilization. And I kind of like that. Like it makes it a bit more special to be out here.
Così, se deve fare la spesa, 45 minuti di bici, meteo permettendo.
And then for winter, I try and get lots of food and store food here just in case I can't leave for like a month or something.
What are the most challenging moments, or what have been like the moments of real difficulties, or you didn't have any?
No, I do, but there are things, okay, I have issues with a very different set of things. So living on my own is very easy, and it's quite interesting that some people would watch my videos and say that I'm very brave for doing this, but for me this is very easy. I'll tell you what's a challenge for me. Okay, one, phone calls. I hate phoning people. I can stare at the phone for a very long time before making the phone call. Walking into a restaurant, if you don't know whether you can communicate with the people, whether there's a menu you can read, whether you can sit down or if they have to seat you, where you can order, where you can pay, that absolutely terrifies me. Like, it terrifies me. For a while I even worked in a club because I figured I should learn to be more social. Kind of felt like I needed to surround myself with more outgoing people so I could kind of learn from them. But now I realize that they're just different types of people and I should just be myself.
La prospettiva di Rosy mi faceva pensare a come le difficoltà siano qualcosa di estremamente relativo e che se ci troviamo in un contesto compatibile con le nostre caratteristiche possiamo addirittura stupirci di come ci riesca facile superarle.
I genuinely just, I don't know, I'm just really good being on my own. I never knew myself either. Steps. We're getting close. It's the first step in building steps. I don't really have any big struggles, but also because maybe sometimes I decide that those things just aren't big priorities. I mean, I just think people worry too much. It's like you're just hoping for something bad to happen. It's like, well, like it's good to be prepared for things that could realistically happen.
And in 10 years or here or whatever, what's the idea you have, the point you would like to reach?
Oh, not so sure, actually. I'm not sure this is ever going to be truly finished just because the house is so old. I'm just trying to enjoy the process, to be honest. Every big project is just lots of tiny steps, so you just need to figure out the steps. And I think that's why some people think that it's all very overwhelming and impossible to do. But really, you just need to figure out all the tiny steps. And all you need to know is the first step, and then the next one, and then the next. So it's not a big, overwhelming thing if you just focus on the little steps.
E questa era la storia di Rosy, che ringraziamo molto per aver condiviso con noi alcune delle sue immagini e per averci aperto le porte della sua casetta rossa e della sua storia.